Okay, let's jump right into it. There are three documents that are the most important when it comes to buying or selling your home. Okay, there are lots of other documents involved. There are amendments, there are disclosures, there are all kinds of different things, probably a few dozen different documents that we're all required to know as agents and to help you out with selling your home or with buying. Now, but there's three main documents that we want to talk about in this video, and I want to kind of make this quick and succinct and helpful for you. Let me open up my desktop here, and there we go. You should be able to see the exclusive authorization and right to sell. That sounds very, very intimidating. But the first thing you want to look at is exclusive. The word exclusive, and what that means is only one agent is going to be able to sell this home. Okay, other agents can bring buyers to the home, but only one agent is representing the seller. Now, there are listing agreements where more than one person can represent the seller, and whoever brings agent or a buyer gets the deal. But most agents won't go for that. That's really like it's really like running a foot race with a whole bunch of other people and just not any kind of agreement to work together and get the home sold. So yeah, most of the time you're not going to see that. Let me make this a little bigger. This has the standard agreement this is actually made by eXp Realty, because when the change happened in 2024, I'll get to in a minute, eXp went ahead and got their documents ahead of everybody else, got them approved by the Department of Real Estate. It's going to state the property address, legal description, how long is this agreement. So in other words, is the listing for 30 days, 90 days, 6 months, a year, so that they want to make sure they have it long enough to get the house sold. Agency relationship between seller and broker determines how the broker will work. And that's really states like, hey, the agent who signs this with the seller, with you, the seller, is going to take care of you. It's their job to protect you. Fiduciary duty is what it's called. And what that means is taking care of your money, looking out for you, trying to do the best they can. Also letting you know about anything that might be detrimental or might be a hindrance for you to sell your home. You're going to want to know that. What's the listing price? Obviously. And you can do adjustments on this. Any adjustment has to be in writing. And then the amount of real estate commissions, we want to be very clear with everybody for buyers, for listing agents, for buyer's agents. The commission rate is not set. It never has been set. Actually, it's always been negotiable. And sometimes I find people who want to negotiate on commissions, and we make that work for everybody. Okay. So this is clearly stating, hey, this is not a set amount. Now, your first question is, oh, well, what is it usually? Okay. Well, it just depends, but usually there's around a 2.6%, somewhere between there and 3%. Some will charge more, but they offer more. You always want to ask what's all involved with selling my house. Are you going to bring staging furniture in? Are you going to host a party with catered cocktails? Do you know what I mean? That kind of thing. And those are all real things that happen to sell a house. For luxury homes, we do that. And so the listing broker gets usually a percentage or an exact amount or a percentage of the gross. Okay. Unrepresented buyer. This tells the seller of the house, hey, if somebody walks in and they say, I don't want an agent, I don't want anything, I just want to work with you and help me. Well, that listing agent can help that person with giving the paperwork to the seller or telling them where to fill in the lines and put in what they want for the offer, but they can't advise them on how to formulate a strong offer or how to make an offer work for the seller. So they're in an advising capacity with the seller, not an advising capacity with the buyer if that comes down. So they usually ask a little bit more money to take care of all the paperwork instead of just half the paperwork. Buyer list, this just talks about, real quick, the broker, in our case, eXp brokerage, does not share commissions with the buyer's broker. So the buyer commission for bringing a buyer to come and buy the house, a buyer's agent commission, is paid for by the seller or by the buyer or by a combination of both, half and half, 20%, 80%, something like that. The buyer can pay those commissions. It's traditional that the seller pays them, but it's not required. Not required. So I want to make sure that's very, very clear. This is just terms about if you have a list of people that you've shown the home and then the listing stops, the listing gets canceled, then we would ask for a buyer's list to make sure that you're not kind of going around to try to sell to that buyer outside of the agreement. Exclusive, the seller understands you can't have multiple exclusive listing agreements. You'll actually be having to pay multiple agents, even if one agent brings you a buyer. Seller concessions, in other words, the seller getting a percentage back for his buyer's agent, a percentage back for repairs, are not required and they are not fixed by law. Any amount of seller concession, which is just a credit back, is negotiable. This is just advising on that. And the final amount of the seller concession must be in writing and signed by both parties. And then here, what we have is authorization to promote. We always want to ask our sellers up front, do you want to be on the MLS? Some people don't. Hey, let's say you're an exclusive neighborhood. You can't have people just driving in and out. You don't want to list on the open market. Maybe you're well known. Maybe you have a profile that you want to maintain. We have exclusive in-office listings, first of all, to 80,000 agents in the US. That's a lot. And we have Mansions Global, Barron's, Wall Street Journal. We have exclusive listings on those websites for some of our higher end clients and some of our exclusive clients who live in places where they don't want to publicly declare that they are selling their home. Some people don't even want their neighbors to know. They don't want to sign in the yard. They just want to sell. They want to move. So you've got that. You've got office exclusives. You've got MLS. Whenever you see MLS, that is Zillow, that is Trulia, that is Redfin, it's Homes.com. These major corporations are all tied into the same databases all across the country, and they pull all the information. Every couple minutes, they're pulling information and they're giving it to you on your app. It's all the same information, but the multiple listing service is how they do that. And then there's just some other things like signs and photos and videos and all that. I'm going to wrap this up because this is about 4 pages long. We're almost done. This defines what the broker services are, how showings are going to go. This defines everything to the seller to understand. We're going to handle necessary paperwork. We're going to conduct showings, all the different things. Seller commitment, cooperate with the broker, maintain the property condition, help out with all these different things with financing if they're buying another house. These are the items that are included in the sale. A good example would be washer and dryer, clothes washer and dryer. Those are not really attached to the house. They kind of are, but kind of not. Some people like to take their washer dryer. Some people like to take their refrigerator. Hey, maybe you got a fancy refrigerator that orders food from Amazon for you. You just don't want to give it up, right? Excluded items, again, you've got included, excluded. I want to take my Samsung refrigerator with me. You want to put that in here in your listing agreement ahead of time. Rented or leased, sometimes you'll have leased or rented items like solar panels or propane gas for fireplaces, that kind of thing. Do you have recordings at your company, at your property? How does canceling work? Fair housing, foreign investment, real property tax. You just need to declare your citizenship before you buy or sell a home, so the government and everybody knows about that. Broker may take other listings, may have other buyers who want to buy this house. So these are all the things that need to be defined. And electronic signatures are used. I mean, a lot of this just not really necessary to talk about right now, but I wanted to make sure you know about it. And then we have additional terms. In our personal brokerage, sellers, what we do is we put this into the listing. Sellers are willing to entertain any request put into a purchase contract. Per North Carolina real estate guidelines, no terms may be disclosed to third parties, but the presence of other offers can be disclosed. So somebody calls and says, hey, Chris, I noticed you got that listing on Banana Street. Hey, how many offers you got? Well, I can't tell you what the terms are. I can't tell you what's going on. We do have an offer in hand, or we do have offers coming. We always try to say, like, there's a lot of interest. We like to hint and say, I'm not going to give away everything that's going on because I like to keep that confidential and private for sellers. Now, if a seller's like, oh yeah, tell people we got offers, tell them what the terms are so they'll up their price. Great, I'll let them know. Also, one quick other thing is transaction fee paid to Anna Powell, which is just our real estate team as of this recording, and it's a $5.95 fee. That's just for document handling to pay our transaction team. We have several staff in the background that answer the phone every day of the week, 7 days of the week, and they're able to take care of anything that needs to be done right away. And then just signatures at the end. That's contract. That's number one. I'm going to try to buzz through the next couple ones real quick. Hang on. Next up, we have what's called the exclusive buyer agency agreement. So if any agent, ever asks you a question like, have you signed with an agent? Well, they're really being lazy. They need to ask you if you have a buyer agency agreement defined. Okay, you need to understand what your relationship is to your agent. Are you exclusive with that agent? I always recommend being exclusive. And it's even if you're on the other side of a transaction with me. If you tell me, well, we're kind of talking to some agents and this and that, man, get serious, get an agent, get committed. That person can work hard for you, look out for you, protect you, and get you into a house that you love. So that's kind of what I say to people. Exclusive buyer agency agreement. You need to understand that the buyer agent fee for you to have a buyer agent help you find, locate, make an offer on, write the paperwork, negotiate the repairs, get you to the closing table, get you the keys, that there's a fee for that. Well, we want to know up front, what's the fee? Here's a little bit of information about properties, terms of agreement, and compensation, okay? So what we've got is, different fees here for new construction. Here's fees for a resale or new construction. And that fee is going to be paid by one of two people or both. The seller is going to pay the buyer agent, the buyer is going to pay the buyer agent, or part will be paid by each. Okay, and you need to understand what agency means, how that person is going to represent you, what they're going to do for you, what are they promising to do to take care of you. If the compensation is not being offered, I'll just talk about this for 1 minute. If the compensation is not being offered at the same level as what you've agreed to with your buyer agent, then you're actually going to have to pay the difference. Now, most of the time that's not very much. Let's say, I don't know, can be a very varying different numbers. But you want to be aware of that going in, making sure that's part of your closing costs. There's a cost to buying a house, okay? There's a cost to just actually getting into the house. That's aside from your down payment. That's aside from your inspection costs. And those down payment and inspection costs are part of your closing costs, part of your costs. But you also have attorney's fees. You also have a title insurance that you need to buy to make sure the title is insured. You have to buy home insurance. There's a lot of different things and fees that you want to go over with your agent before you get to the closing table and say, well, what are all these fees? I don't understand. Any good agent is going to sit down with you early in the process and talk about this. And part of that might be your buyer's agent fee. This is going to define how long they're agreeing to work together. Hey, we might have other buyers. Here's our duties: confidentiality, standard of care, representation of others, and letting you know that we are going to do the best we can to find you a property, negotiate that property, get you into that property, and take care of you along the way. Look out for you and look out for your money. That's a fiduciary duty. So kind of lasting a little longer than I planned here, but disclosure, conduct all brokerage activities in regard to this agreement without respect to race, color, religion, sex, national origin, etc. And a lot of people like to do buyer's letters to seller. Dear Mr. Seller, we love your house. We are Jane and Paul, and we have 2 kids. They don't allow that anymore. If you really want to do it, but it actually lines you up for potential lawsuits. So we really usually decline to do that. The buyer's duties, well, to work exclusively with the firm, the brokerage, Conduct all communications through the brokerage. You don't want to start talking directly to a seller. And I know it kind of makes sense. I mean, I remember the first time I bought a house, I'm like, why don't I just sit down with the seller and work this out? Well, here's the reason. They're going to say something and you're going to hear something and you're going to go, yay, we agree. And then later on, they're going to go, I didn't say that. It happens all the time, right? Happens with spouses, happens with kids. So you want to make sure everything's line by line on a piece of paper that's official, that's signed by everybody. And that way we know this is exactly what this means. You're going to get a copy of the offer to look at before you fill one out. Confidentiality, dual agency. We'll talk real quick about dual agency. Yeah, let's just do it. So dual agent, as you can imagine, would be an agent working for two sides. If you think about, dual agent and a double agent in a spy movie, he's working for, the Russians and the U.S., whatever it may be. Well, it's kind of a conflict of interest for an agent to advise both sides. Hey, Mr. Seller, I think the buyer is going to go for this. Oh, well, hey, Mr. Buyer, I think the seller is going to go for this. Like, well, that's not going to work. Can't advise both sides. So we can do dual agency. It is allowed by law. It's just not a great practice. So what we like to say is something called designated dual agency. Designated dual agency, it's right down here, means if you are my client as a buyer and you walk into my listing and say, Chris, I'd like to buy your listing. So while I'm representing you as the buyer, I can't represent the seller as well. I'm going to get another agent within my brokerage to come and help you and take care of you on your side, advise you on your side, and I will advise the seller on my side. I'm going to skip down a little bit. There's a lot to look at here, but this does need to be covered before you start looking at houses. Okay, this is actually required before an agent shows you homes. Now, any agent who shows you a home is going to kind of fudge around the paperwork, and they're not really working for you. They're just opening a door. And it happens a lot, but I can tell you that it's not on the up and up, and they're really not taking care of you. They're just trying to get a deal. They're just trying to get a deal and get some money in the bank. And I appreciate that, but that's part of why we don't really break the rules too much. Okay, let's jump over to the offer. Here is a sample 2T right there. Oops. So this is the offer to purchase and contract. The offer and the contract are the same thing. This defines exactly what you are offering to the seller or what your buyer is offering and what exactly they want you to do. Everything should be in here from the beginning. If they are thinking in the back of their mind, hey, I'd like to get that, whatever it is, that back window fixed that's broken. Hey, I noticed a couple faucets were leaking. I'd like to get those fixed. They would actually put all of it in here, including the price. So you've got the seller name, buyer name, property, address, etc. This is all section number 1 right here, terms and definitions. Here's your purchase price, your due diligence fee. We're going to talk about that in the next episode here, but an earnest money, any additional earnest money, if you're going to pay some more earnest money later, assumption of unpaid balance, that's an assumed loan, seller financing loan. How are you going to pay for this place? And then the balance that will be produced in cash at settlement. Now, when you say in cash, if you have a lender giving you money, that's cash. It's just coming from a lender, and you're going to have to sign a whole nother set of documents making a commitment to the lender to pay them back. Whole big stack. If you buy with cash, your paperwork's this big. You buy with a loan, your paperwork's this big. 17 pages here, so I'm not going to go over all of them. This defines earnest money. It defines what happens if there's a delay in settlement. It defines everything that you want to be included, not included, anything personal property you want removed, things that you need fixed before. Here's a good one on page 7 has got the disclosure statement saying that, hey, you got to take a look at the disclosures from the seller before you made the offer. Are you going to see an inspection report? Probably not. Most sellers don't do inspection reports. I do advise sellers to get an inspection, but it's usually $600 to $700 and they don't want to spend that. They just want to sell their house. So they say, well, the buyer can do that. I'm not going to digress too far here, but do you have another property to sell before you buy this one? All of this is going to be defined here. And just to define something real quick, if you have to sell your home to buy this home, that's the only way you can qualify for the mortgage, or the only way you'd have the cash to buy the home. You have to disclose that. It's definitely advisable to disclose it. Don't lie on this offer because it'll all come out. The other thing is you do not have what's called, you don't have an out. If your house doesn't sell, you're still obligated under this contract, or you have to cancel and lose your due diligence and your earnest money. Okay, we'll get into that later. That's just a quick flyby. Responsibility for certain costs. You're probably gonna have to pay an appraisal. You're probably gonna have to pay for title insurance and a title search. Fees from the attorney, recording the deed. These are all buyer fees. Talk to your agent about this before you start shopping. Make sure you know what you're going to have to pay for. And then there's just more information about the property. Is there a fuel tank? What's the HOA fees? All these different things. What are the seller obligations? This is 17 pages. So as you can imagine, you want to work with an agent that understands what all this jargon is, and they can explain it to you in everyday terms. What kind of loan are you using? Are you using cash, using a VA, etc.? And then right here on page 11 is where you can say, hey, you know what? We noticed that the kitchen has broken tiles on the countertop. It's the one thing that we really have to have fixed. We just like to just do it on our own. So we're going to ask for a seller credit. It's called an agreement to pay buyer expenses seller credit. We also call this a concession. So earlier we talked about concessions. This is a concession. So you would put in $5,000, $10,000, whatever it is. You would put it in here before you make the offer, because this is going to come off the seller's proceeds. The seller's going to make money, and they're going to take this off and make less money because they're going to credit this to you at the end. All sorts of stuff, homeowners, warranties, addendums that might be attached. Like if you have a VA or a FHA loan, you have to sign an addendum. You're going to have your appraisal from the lender come in at full price or better in order to close an FHA or a VA loan. There's lots more to this, but I want to make sure that I'm giving you some valuable information. Signatures, etc. When you submit this offer, your due diligence fee is due right away. So you're going to put a number in here. Let's say you put $1,500. That you need to be able to write a check or get a cashier's check from the bank the same day, because you might hand this over to the seller and they might go, yep, looks good, and sign it. Now you're under obligation to submit that money. It's due like the day that you sign. Now, most people can get it within a day or two, and sellers are fine with that, but you need to be ready to pay that price. This earnest money usually will be held by an attorney or someone else. Now, these are just example numbers. Please don't come and say, hey, Chris, you said it's $1,500 for due diligence. It depends on the property. It depends on how in demand that property is and how much you want that property. So these are the 3 contracts that are very important and essential to you getting into the property that you want. If you're a seller, please sit down with an agent, even if you're thinking months down the line. Find out what they offer, find out what they're going to do for you, what kind of marketing are they going to give you, what do they charge, but more importantly is how are they going to get your home sold for a good price, and what are homes selling for in your area. If you are a buyer, before you start shopping, you want to talk to an agent, you want to talk to a lender, you want to get all your ducks in a row. Get ready to buy so that you're not scrambling when you wander into an open house on a Saturday afternoon and fall in love. Oh, honey, this is the place. Oh my gosh, yeah, it's got the deck and the thing and the pool for the kids, and it's the right price. Let's get it. Awesome, yay. Well, you can't just pull your credit card out and buy that house. You got to either have your cash ready in the bank, or you got to have your agent ready to make the offer or some financing ready. So being prepared when you're getting ready to buy, even if it's a long way off, is always advisable. And I even have to tell this stuff to my family because they like to shop on Zillow on the weekends and send me all these properties and go, hey, let's buy this, let's buy that. Great. How are we going to do that? We got to get our financing together. So yeah, part of your journey on home ownership. It's kind of a long video, but I think it's an important one and I hope it was valuable for you. Thanks a lot. On to the next.